Hi everyone, and welcome to SLIS 701, Introduction to Library and Information Studies. This is Dr. Kitsy. This week I'll provide you with a course introduction in two videos. In the first video, which you're watching now, we'll go over introductions. Specifically, I'll introduce myself and provide you with a brief introduction to the field and some issues and topics we'll be addressing over the course of the semester. In the second video, I'll provide you with information about what the course is going to look like, as well as its logistics and requirements. So let's get started. I'm Dr. Vanessa Kitsy, and I'll be your instructor this semester. I'm a new member of the SLIS faculty starting last semester. So my area of research specialization is within a sub-area of LIS called Human Information Behavior. And within that area, I'm specifically interested in understanding how the role or potential role of the library within the lives of different groups of people can manifest. I'm particularly interested in understanding how the library can serve as an anchor for marginalized groups, and wrote my dissertation about the information practices of LGBTQ people when exploring, adopting, and negotiating their identities. My professional experience has been in special libraries, where I worked as a news researcher for ABC for 4 years. Since you'll soon be learning about professional LIS organizations, I thought I'd end this slide by naming some of the ones that I'm involved with. First off, I'm a member of the American Library Association, called ALA for short, and I chair the advocacy committee for ALA's Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, and Transgender Roundtable. They're called the GLBTRT for short. You're going to hear a lot of acronyms and abbreviations today. I promise you by the end of the semester, you'll have a hold on about 70% of them. I'm also a member of SLIS, which stands for the Association of Library and Information Science Educators, and ASIST, which stands for the Association for Information Science and Technology. If you're interested in any of these organizations, please let me know, and I'll be happy to provide you with further information about what they're like, how to join them, and how to get involved. So you've decided to get an LIS degree. Congratulations! One thing that I already know about all of you, without even reading your intros that you've posted to the discussion boards, is that you like helping people and wearing many hats, as these are two key characteristics of librarians. Now I want to give you a brief overview of our field, and I'm going to break this down into academic, school, and public libraries, followed by some general challenges and trends that can apply to other library contexts. The information that I'm reviewing can be found in more detail in the ALA short report called The State of America's Libraries. I recommend familiarizing yourselves with this report, as it will provide you with a snapshot of the field, including names of notable organizations, links to resources including webinars, and plenty of statistics. Let's start with academic libraries. Academic library positions comprise about 24% of new MLIS jobs, and their roles and responsibilities are growing. It's now an expectation from big grant funding agencies that researchers document their practice, as well as organize and preserve their data. Librarians have adopted new roles in research data management to facilitate this process. Further, it's becoming more important for researchers to document the impact of their research, leading librarians to adopt scholarly communications roles by helping researchers share their research and use metrics like citation counts to track their progress. Collections and spaces within academic libraries are also shifting and changing. Librarians are sharing their space with other campus services, such as writing centers, and repurposing this space to engender collaborative work among students. From a collection standpoint, libraries are moving toward patron-driven acquisitions rather than collection development, and are promoting open access by working with instructors to find suitable e-resources with students to minimize textbook costs. They are also developing institutional repositories where everyone associated with the university, from students to faculty, can disseminate their work as open access. A key goal of academic librarians are to enhance student learning and success. Learning represents more qualitative measures, so like a student's ability to think critically, whereas success represents more quantitative measures, like a student's GPA. Not only are academic librarians tasked with enhancing both types of outcomes, but they also have to constantly assess how they contribute to this enhancement and communicate this contribution to their provosts. Last year, the Association of College and Research Libraries, commonly abbreviated as ACRL, commissioned a report to explore how academic librarians can better communicate their value. I was one of the authors of this report, and a key finding from it was that academic librarians need to do a better job with linking their services, collections, and spaces to the institution's mission and goals. And while this sounds like a simple idea, in theory, it's not necessarily in practice. For example, it's very hard to measure the quality of library services and tie it to just a direct number like a return on investment. So if you're interested in learning more about academic libraries and the challenges that are going to face them, you can take a look at the research agenda that I co-authored. I've uploaded it to the resources folder in this week's Module 1 folder. All right, so let's look at school libraries next. School librarians have the lion's share of jobs. They hold more than a third of all library jobs. And while funding cuts affect all parts of librarianship, they're especially pressing for school librarians. School librarians have experienced significant funding decreases in the last 5 years. However, things are looking up, and there are signs that the budget might be increasing. There's also the potential for the Every Student Succeeds Act, which was passed in 2015. This law includes language allowing schools to budget funds for school librarians as specialized instructional support personnel. The American Association of School Librarians, AASL, has developed several resources that explain how school libraries can maximize their opportunities for funding. This can be found in the ALA Trends report on page 9, and I've posted this entire report within the resources folder in this week's Module 1 folder. So, as should not be a surprise given the current socio-political climate, school librarians have increased their efforts related to countering mis- and disinformation. And the difference between those two terms is that misinformation isn't purposeful, while disinformation is. And both are a challenge because what constitutes mis- and disinformation can vary by community. For instance, in my work with LGBTQ individuals, I've had several transgender participants tell me that they trust other trans people more than doctors for medical advice because of the emphasis that they place on lived experience. Librarians recognize this, that one's evaluation of information depends on community context, and as a result, they've shifted from suggesting one-size-fits-all approaches to getting your information and evaluating that information, to taking factors like cultural and community context into consideration. ACRL, or that Association of College and Research Libraries, has reflected this change in their most recent reissued literacy standards, and these are standards for information literacy. And I've also included these standards in the resources folder for the week if you're interested in looking at them. Another pressing issue for school librarians is social justice. Libraries have a historical record of engaging in social justice-related efforts. However, as we'll read in Module 4, they still have significant tunnel vision and blind spots when it comes to engendering social justice for specific groups of people. And to this end, one of my personal goals for this class is that you come away with a deep understanding of librarianship's relationship to social justice that moves beyond surface-level diversity and inclusivity statements. And finally, public libraries. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, not because I don't find public libraries to be excellent, but only because what I've discussed on the last slide also applies to public libraries, so I don't necessarily want to rehash it here. 29% of LIS jobs are in public libraries. And similar to school libraries, public libraries currently face an opportunity and challenge when engaging in social justice work and countering mis- and disinformation. One task force that might be of interest to those of you who are aspiring public librarians is the Public Library Association's Task Force on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. So on this slide, what I've included are some key trends that were identified by ALA as ones that are going to affect librarianship in the years to come. And one thing that I suggest that you do is set up a Google News alert for topics of interest that are on the slide, such as net neutrality. This will keep you up to date with the field and specifically how it might relate to things that you're interested in. So what I'm going to do is highlight a few of these issues now. I'll highlight the ones that are bolded on this slide. However, you can refer to the full ALA report for more detail. And keep in mind that these trends are very broad, and they can be contextualized within various areas of librarianship, including, but not limited to, school, academic, public, and special libraries. So the first issue I want to discuss is digital citizenship. As people increasingly interact online, it's essential that librarians learn more about the opportunities and challenges of virtual environments so that they can provide guidance to those moving through them. We can't look at the internet as our adversary. In fact, did you know that Google got its initial funding from a digital libraries grant offered by the National Science Foundation? Key areas within digital citizenship to keep your eyes out for are cyberbullying, privacy and surveillance, and digital literacy. To be effective digital stewards, librarians have to understand virtual environments and how people interact in them. Some recommended resources to get started here are the Pew Research Center and also Data and Society, which is a think tank based in New York. I've posted these links to our resources folder this week, so you can take a look at them if digital citizenship is an issue or trend that is of interest to you. Another key area that librarians need to continue focusing on is cultural competence, or the ability to understand the needs of diverse populations. One of the reasons why the field currently lacks this ability is that the cultural background of many LIS professionals differs from those that they serve. This is a predominantly white female profession. And it's not just enough to hire librarians of color if the library environment does not make them feel welcome in the first place. For instance, 2 recent studies of academic librarians demonstrated that librarians of color experienced racial microaggressions from their white colleagues, and these latter colleagues, these white colleagues, were unable to detect these microaggressions that they were perpetuating. So a great resource to check out if you want to learn about developing cultural competence is an article authored by Patricia Overall, which I posted again in the resources folder. I also posted the 2 recent articles on microaggressions within academic libraries if you're interested in checking them out. So another key area to focus on, net neutrality, right? This is a very pressing issue for the profession. And if it ends up being revoked, there are great consequences for equity of information access to different populations. And this access is not just economic, it's also social. In other words, revoking net neutrality enables content providers to slow down or speed up access to certain content. So if the CEO of Comcast, let's say, is anti-LGBTQ, Comcast users may experience difficulties accessing sites with LGBTQ content. ALA is engaging in significant lobbying, protesting the upcoming possible repeal of net neutrality, and this is an issue that you should monitor closely if you haven't started already. So the final key issue that I want to discuss today is intellectual freedom. And this, of course, is another timely issue, especially when we're facing trigger warnings and on-campus speaker cancellations. Some librarians take the position that we should provide access to all information, even that which we disagree with. Others counter this argument, stating that some of this content further disenfranchises marginalized groups. Trigger warnings are another interesting topic of debate. Some contend that these are positive and give people a heads up as to content that might be emotionally or psychologically distressing, such as those individuals who have PTSD. Others state that trigger warnings can impede access to certain content and disproportionately are applied to works that are authored by marginalized individuals. So here, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions or ways to address these issues. Rather, what we need to do in our profession is learn about the historical stances libraries have taken on these issues, how these positions are contended, and how the stance that libraries have taken on these issues can change over time. Finally, I wanted to provide you with just a glimpse at some other future trends. These trends are part of an ALA project called Library of the Future, which seeks to identify future trends impacting libraries. If you access the website from which I took these screenshots, you can click on Trends of Interest to learn more about them, as well as to get further reading and resources. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me, and when you're ready, go ahead and check out video 2.